I've been ready.
All right, well we're live now, so we're not live, we're not streaming, but we're recording. So nonetheless, here we are. What's going on?
I mean, yeah,
What's going
we're
on?
here.
To anybody listening, we are recording right now. I'm living my life, 23-year-old nerd who's living in his own basement, and it is what it is. I don't know what the heck we're gonna call our podcast, but Bane, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, man?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm Austin Bain. I mean, I'm 21. I live in Indianapolis. Come straight out of Richmond. But yeah, just a college kid trying to make a name for myself, trying to get out into that world. 21 years old, so lots of opportunities coming.
For sure, absolutely. Just for you guys that listen, Austin and we've grown up kind of together. I wouldn't say we were best friends growing up because we lived in separate towns, but we shared a lot of the same wrestling rooms together. We spent a lot of time around the same atmospheres. We definitely had our friendship as far as like wrestling goes, but in terms of being outside of that, like he had his own friend group, I had mine. Um, and the reason we're kind of making this podcast now is because we're both at Marion University in Indianapolis. Shout out Naptown. And
Yeah, go
yeah,
Knights.
go Knights. Roll damn Knights, baby.
Yes, sir. No, I
Uh,
mean, that pretty much explains the relationship. I mean, kind of been brought back together through Marion and through wrestling. I mean, yeah, like you said, bro, we've been together for a long time. We've known each other for a long time. I mean, we even
Absolutely.
made me had to get surgery. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I was planning on you talking about that. I really was. I knew you were gonna bring that up. Let's see if this
I mean, I have to.
thing here. I might just do it like this, yo, low key. Let's just see, cause my face is so dang white.
I know, but it's. I think it kind of looks smooth like this,
Like
for
this,
real.
got the little purple in the
Yeah.
background. All right, well we'll do it. The only problem is you move the hands like this, bro. It looks all bad, but I'm not moving too
You
much.
look like you finna whoa.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So obviously, I knew you were gonna bring up that the fact that I had to give you surgery, or not give you surgery, but the fact that I had to, I messed your knee up or whatever. But listen, at the end of the day, that was your fault. Your dad just specifically told you not to wrestle with me. I was a freshman, sophomore in high school, and you're a little some punk seventh, eighth grader, bro. That was all on you, man. All on
But
you.
I was cold. I was cold.
You were
I
cold.
was just trying to get better. I was just trying to get better. And you was the guy in the room that I was trying to get better with at the time.
You could have went with
You know,
Tom. You
I
could have
was
went with
just.
someone.
I mean, yeah, but Tom was kind of an asshole. You know what I'm saying? He tried to kill me.
Tommy
He.
was.
I mean, you thought I was like a little punk, because I mean at that time I was doing some things, but like Tom really tried to kill me.
I mean, you
You know
were.
what I mean?
You're. It's not that I mean, you were a punk. Like you were.
I mean, I'm
In the
not
end of the
saying that I was. I mean,
day.
I was a young kid talking shit. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying? So
absolutely, bro. But Tom was, dude. Tom was God.
I mean, and he tried to kill me. Him and Cody. Cody used to try and kill me too when we wrestled.
Yup.
That was the worst group to ever. I mean, they knew I was
Dude.
the young little dude they could pick on, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I held my own, but at the same time, like they was trying to hurt me.
Yeah, they were
For real.
some douchebags, no doubt. Cody was
No,
Cody
100%.
was the reason I legitimately tore my shoulder my senior year. He literally popped it, I think, 3 or 4 times. It was awful.
Yeah, man. I mean, and the whole other situation. I mean, I was 3 weeks off of the first surgery that I had. So I mean, that was only like my third practice back.
So
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 I
so
was already messed up.
you weren't even a month back from surgery, and you were in a wrestling room going live, basically.
Yeah, my second week actually. I
So
mean, I had surgery on I think the first one was my left knee. Yeah, it was the left knee. I had surgery on my left knee. All they did was trim it out a little bit. You know what I'm saying? My meniscus, torn my meniscus. They trimmed it out a little bit.
yeah.
I mean, it obviously wasn't too invasive. So I mean, the surgery wasn't that bad. I mean, the recovery time, I got back in like 2 weeks, and yeah, I practiced the week before. Felt everything out, but I was still a little timid. Obviously, I just came off of surgery, and then going in, you were a little bit bigger than me at the time. Um, I think what I was in seventh, eighth grade. You were a sophomore, junior. I mean, you was probably I would you wrestle
I think I
152,
was
160.
around, yeah, 150, 160 my sophomore year.
Yeah, bro. And I think my eighth grade year, I wrestled 120 during middle school season. So I mean, you were a little bit bigger, obviously a little stronger. I mean,
Yeah.
eighth grade and junior in high school, but yeah, and I was a little timid, and it just got in the wrong position and popped the other one. So
You try to hit me with the dump, bro. That's what it was. I think you tried to hit me with the dump, and
it was
then
an ankle lace. It was an ankle lace.
well, no,
Yeah,
no, no, but yeah, you hit me. You tried to hit me with the dump. I think I stopped it, or we scrambled to where I had you in a leg lace eventually. Like I eventually got the takedown,
yeah,
and then threw it in a
yeah.
leg lace. And
I was
yeah,
just fighting it, and I was fighting it way too hard, and it just went.
was that the same knee or was it a different knee?
No, it was the opposite one. It was my right one. So I just had surgery. Let's see. I think they were exactly a month apart. Like I had surgery on March 7th that year,
Yeah,
and I had surgery on April 7th on my right knee. Like literally
man,
1 month apart.
your dad was ready to whoop my ass. Your
Not
dad
really.
was ready to whoop. I saw that look in his eyes, and I knew for a good while we wouldn't be friends. And it's like it's not really that he could blame me because it's like he's like, dude, be careful when you wrestle with him. So that's a message not only to you, but it's also to me to be like, hey, like be careful with my son.
Yeah, no, but I mean, at the time we didn't even notice. Like I finished the rest of the practice. Like obviously I just drilled. We didn't wrestle no more live or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I was doing drilling. Like I finished the rest of the practice. I think I might even practice one more time that week. We didn't even know it. For
Sheesh.
real. And then I was like, yeah, but like this feels the same. Like, Dad, we got to go to the doctor. This feels the same. And it was actually worse. That's the one that I got repaired. So I was out for like 5 months after that.
Yeah, wrestling. God, it's taking you places, and it's also ripped up your body. It's
Oh yeah,
I
sure.
tell people all the time. I was like, man, look, I may be a fit, looking like I'm healthy 23-year-old at this point in my life, but in all reality, it's like we're doing the same job. Like I was working at this place called Thrive Market in Batesville, and I was legitimately walking around in an oval, putting stuff in and it was an organic food plant, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm spending 10 hours, 9.5 to 10 hours walking and basically in an oval, putting food, organic food in these buckets for people that they ordered, right?
Yeah.
And I got this little girl. She's maybe a buck 50. No, not even that. A buck five. I'm sorry, not buck 50. A buck five. She's a buck five, walking around at max 120, soaking wet. And she's out here going through this, laughing me and stuff. And I'm like, bro, what? And I'm legitimately at my lunchtime at my break, and I'm like limping to the break room. I'm like, bro, there's no way. There's no way. I'm like, my knees hurt too much. My ankles, my feet, they all ache and they're sore. And I'm like, nah, sorry, I'm not built to do this job. And that's something that wrestling has like legitimately screwed me over. I'm like, maybe I told the people, I was like, hey, maybe in a couple years from now, I might be able to do this job. But I was like, right now, I'm just too fresh off wrestling. I gotta get some kind of, some kind of therapy, physical therapy to get, to rehab myself. But not right now. No chance.
Yeah, dude, I 100% walking in the oval, 4 knee surgeries in. That was my second one that we just talked about. I done had 2 since then. Uh, but I mean, 4 knee surgeries walking around in the oval, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, no
Ain't no
chance.
way.
No chance, dude.
Not a chance.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
let's dive into what we want to call this thing, man. Because I mean, shoot, I don't really know. I mean, it just for people who listen to it, they're gonna pull up and just hear two random dudes talk. So
I
while this
mean,
may be like the inaugural stream, like it's like here we go, we're starting this thing, not stream. I'm sorry,
we're still trying to
podcast.
figure things out.
Yeah, I mean, it might be two, three recordings in before we even know what we want to call this.
Absolutely. And
But
I think it could come with us. It could, like, we could catch a catchphrase within, like, speaking, you know what I'm saying?
maybe.
So, like, it could just kind of, like, flow out. You never know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I guess time will tell. Let's try to plan to at least have something by the end of this week, by the end of Friday, right? So let's
Oh, I'm ready
if
for
if
that.
we're like 2 or 3 recordings in, let's try and find something where we can call it. Some names we're kind of playing with right now. Um, at least I am. I don't know what you're thinking. Obviously, we got a different track mind, but I'm thinking of Buckeye and Bane. I'm thinking of Buckeye and Bane Productions, BnB. So like still Buckeye and Bane. You got the BnB, BnB Productions, BnB Experience, BnB Podcast. I don't know, man. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Again, I somewhat care just so we can start, branding it to, when we post this stuff on YouTube, and it doesn't just go from my YouTube channel, it goes to, our specific branded YouTube channel. Then
Oh,
we
of
can
course.
figure that stuff out. But
It's a too bad. It's too bad that you got C in your initials, but I mean it's not D. You know what I'm saying? A B C D. I mean mine
oh,
A B. You got the
yo,
CG, but I mean,
you could go ABCG, and that's where the D's at, and you say, hey, we give you to it later.
hey,
Give it to you later.
yeah,
Oh.
you gonna get to the D later. No, for real,
Yo,
that's like kind of smooth. That's like a little catchphrase.
it
You know what I'm saying?
is. It
You
is.
got A B C G,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll get to the D later. That's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah. But
smooth.
the
Not gonna
problem
lie.
is you're wifed up and so am I, so that's the problem.
Oh,
Yeah,
don't even
the
talk
old
about
girls, they
it. Oh,
they they're a cuck, bro. They're a cuck when it comes to this stuff.
A B C G.
GG.
I mean,
I don't know, bro.
you know,
That
I
is.
mean, people call me AB now. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
ever since the whole Marion Maniacs things, I mean, AB. On Marion
So,
campus,
uh,
everybody knows me as AB. So,
for somebody who doesn't know what Marion Maniacs is, tell them what it is. And
all
like,
right. So basically, I mean, Marion Maniacs. Obviously, we go to Marion University.
where's that
Big
at?
sports guys. Indianapolis, Indiana. Marion University in Indianapolis, Indiana. Go Knights, roll damn Knights, you know what I'm saying? But last year I really got into what's called Marion Maniacs. It's basically like the student section almost. It's kind of like the organization that runs like events. It runs themes. I mean, basically does branding, like commercials, interviews, all types of things for the sports at Marion. We also run the student section. We're like the hype guys. I mean, I just got really involved with that last year, and I'm a co-president going into it this year. So I'm just trying to make it not necessarily an organization, but I want to almost turn it into an environment. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah,
everybody can come into the environment and have a great time and be hype and support each other at the sports games, and even get people from outside of the sports realm to come to the games and support, and kind of just make it a fun experience almost. So really, there's not like a set thing that Marion Maniacs is. It's like I try to cover so much different stuff um,
yeah.
within the kind of Marion Maniacs title.
So
So
you're looking at something where you kind of organize the student section and to get
right,
people excited for games. So when you talk about themes, you talk about Hawaiian themes or neon.
yep,
Where you have the themes and from football games and basketball games, you do a whiteout or a blackout or neon
right,
themed
right.
Hawaiian theme type stuff. You guys also run some contest tournaments. The one that comes to mind is the singing contest, like the Mass Singer, right? That's a big
Yeah, bro, that was a
popular
new
show.
thing. That was kind of crazy.
Hmm.
It actually got a pretty decent review. We had some pretty decent singers that were actually on the show. Obviously, we could have made it a lot better. I mean, we did it in a short amount of time. Everybody's got a busy schedule, so it's hard to get in and record and do other things like that. But I mean,
Absolutely.
that actually was a pretty big hit.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
so
without
things
people
like that,
cheating, right?
yeah, which you know,
That's crazy,
you know
bro.
how that goes. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
crazy. You have a small competition within a small university, because I think Marion is classified as a small university. I
Oh,
mean,
for sure.
and I don't. What was the prize? I don't even know if there was a prize. Was there a prize like $100
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah. It was like a gift card or something, or like a Visa card with some money on it or something.
right? But nothing existentially crazy, right? Like I
Right,
mean, most
right.
what $25, $50.
I think it was 50, but
Okay,
yeah, I mean,
it's a
not
cheat.
not super crazy,
It's
but
a
to like bring in outside people and like tweet it out, like
yeah,
it's supposed to be anonymous,
right. And,
and you're
and
out here like telling your family, and they're like tweeting it out to other people, like.
making it
And you could
obvious.
go through the tweet likes, like just look at the likes, and you can name. They all got the same name. Like,
The
come on,
same last
you
name,
know
the
who
same
this is
family
now.
tree. That's
That's what I'm saying.
petty,
Like,
bro. Petty. Very, very petty.
we really had to rig it. As much as I don't want to go on record and say it, we had to rig it. Like, we were making fake Twitter accounts to get votes to the person
Oh,
that was
y'all did
supposed to
that.
win. Yes,
but,
we had
but
to rig
yeah,
it.
it's like you got it. You play with fire. I mean, mess with fire, you play with fire.
We had it, dude. We thought about taking it down with 1 minute and putting it back up and making one vote and like making it just so you know what I mean. Like we are
Yeah.
gonna take the original post down and then repost it again and just have us vote it and then close the poll because it was cheating. Like it was clear cut cheating.
Yeah.
And didn't want that to get through, especially because it would have ruined the show. Like the person that person was up against made it to the finals, like,
Yeah.
and
No, for
if they would
sure.
have cheated and won and took that person out, like the whole idea, the whole competition aspect to it would have been thrown out the window. We didn't want that to happen. So
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's in
But
the
we do other
past.
like Nitro Palooza, the what's it called, pep rally, I guess you call it, pep rally at the beginning of the year, where we give out the jerseys or the tank tops or whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
We run that and do some contests and stuff there. Obviously, like I said, we give out a free jersey or T-shirt or whatever. I mean, we can come up with in the budget. So that's a huge thing because they get to wear it all year and it's a part of the theme. So
Yeah.
that's actually really cool. I'm gonna try and make that super cool this year. That's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to. Um, yeah. Other than that, we just do like contests, giveaways.
So
The
basically,
Maniac
everything
Minute,
related to student affairs and student spirit,
yeah,
basically.
and the Maniac Minute. That's how we get our information out.
I am tripping. What is that sound? Hold on. Give me 1 minute. Upstairs? Okay. All right. That was weird. I'm sorry. I had like a really weird like stinging sound.
I'm not even gonna cap, bro. I did not know there was a person behind you. No
Mhm.
cap.
Yep.
Straight picked their head up and looked, and I saw the white face, and I had no idea.
Yeah, I
I
told
was
her.
like,
I told her that we'd be recording a podcast. So yeah, in the
oh.
future, we'll obviously we're not the most fancy and professional podcast right
Oh,
now,
for sure.
but
That's what makes it good.
as time goes on, we'll try to filter it more and make it a little more professional. Given the fact that we'll figure out what kind of software to use and whatnot, but
Authenticity, though,
mm-hmm.
makes it. I don't know, a little more
More real.
likable, more authentic, more real.
I'm about to have to mute my mic every time they do this crap.
Yeah, but I mean, we got the Maniac Minute too, which is kind of like what I want to do as a career, and where we like put out a video and talk about the events and stuff for the week. So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool too. So it
Yeah.
is what it is.
No, I mean I understand, and especially given that you're talking about whether it's staying with Marion or whether you're trying to get something set up to where you can kind of do events, some kind of being in a I don't know if you'd call it an event coordinator or just a hype man for like the Pacers, something related to Indiana and having having that kind of um, I don't know, having that title, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you already know that's where I want to go. Like as we talked at school, I mean, we talk a lot. We are roommates for half the year. We're obviously on the same team. I mean, that's kind of like the direction I'm trying to take it. Like I want to go to the Pacers and I want to be a part of like fan engagement. And I feel like that's kind of what I do with the Maniacs, like fan engagement. I'm trying to get the fans there. I'm trying to get them hyped for the games. I'm trying to coordinate some things for fans to do. And that's like kind of what I want to like start my job at. I want to try and get into the Indiana Pacers and work on like fan engagement and stuff like that. So, I mean, all kind of ties together. Yeah, I can hear you. Now I can. Now Yeah, I'm here. I'm ready.
All right, I'll just edit that kind of out. I'll edit that little portion out. Could you hear like the little? Psst? Could you hear it on
Yeah,
your
I
end?
can hear the beep. Yes, and it's
Okay,
hurting my ears.
I'm very sorry about that.
Nah, it's cool.
I guess if it happens, I'll just because I mean the recording itself is not wasn't hearing it. I'm looking at the audio levels of it, and it wasn't. Um, for whatever reason, yes, the water that's being run from the hose outside is somewhat making that freak out. I don't know, but moving on to it. Yeah, man, I'm sorry. That probably killed a little bit of the vibe that we had going, but fuck it. Like you said, it's unfiltered and it's raw. No.
No, authentic. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
We'll figure it out.
Authentic. It's so.
We'll figure it out. But
I mean,
let's
really,
let's switch gears a little bit. And
yeah,
I'm sure the whole world wants to hear a little bit about your thoughts and like just other people's thoughts in general. If you're an open-minded person or you're somebody who wants to kind of listen to what's going on in the world right now, give me some of your thoughts, whether it's coronavirus related. Give me your thoughts about rioting and looting and black oppression, white privilege, whatever. Like I want to hear it. Let's talk about it. It's an interesting topic. I'm sure if anybody cares at all to listen to and to hear other people's opinions about it.
dude. I mean, let me start off by saying 2020. What the fuck?
Oh,
You know what I
shout out,
mean? Like
shout out, yo! Imagine the
2020.
history books for 2020. Uh,
What do you highlight?
Bro,
you
that the
literally just
whole year
highlight
is gonna be a
2020.
chapter, bro.
It's 2020, and you just highlight 2020. Like you can't even list it all. Like
hmm
man, it started out with the coronavirus. I mean,
Not even, bro.
dude, there's
It
been
started out.
so
It
much.
started out slash ended with Juice World's death, going on to World War III being a joke slash
Which,
kind of serious.
yeah,
You had the death of Kobe. You
yeah.
have coronavirus. You have the killing of another a black man from a white officer, and then you have somewhere in between this you have the locusts, uh,
Plague in Africa,
and then you have the killer bees from wherever. I mean
murder hornets, and
yeah, whatever. Yeah, hornets. That's what they were. But my
and
God.
everything. Like I don't know. I mean, just to start with it, like we lost some vital people in like our society, like Kobe Bryant. Like that's like one of the most influential basketball players ever. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge sports guy. Like Kobe Bryant, I mean, the Mamba mentality, man, everybody uses that. I mean, it turned the world upside down. Juice World was not necessarily up and coming, but still kind of up and coming. You know what I mean? Early in
Yeah.
his life, he'd already put out and produced so many hits. I mean, he had so much more to do, and he was becoming influential in hip hop and the rap game. I mean, it just losing influential people in the world is just something that everybody stops, like moment of silence type of thing. I mean, just like you said, small school Marion. I mean, we put out T-shirts that had Mamba mentality and stuff for one basketball game when it happened. I mean, just everybody stopped and kind of looked on the legacy, and I mean,
I
it's
mean, it's almost
crazy.
like the world stopped. Like it really did feel like the world just kind of, Earth just kind of paused and was in this just weird state of not knowing what to do. And it was, I mean,
Right?
it was similar to what coronavirus has done. Obviously,
Absolutely.
coronavirus or COVID-19 has kind of is more elongated and has a lot longer of a period of time of that feeling. But for the first couple of days or even whatever, when everything's kind of at the peak of it, when everything was shutting down and whatnot, it's almost how you felt about the death of Kobe. It's like, what, he can't be dead. Like he's not dead. There's no way. Like almost you didn't
Not
believe it
real.
at first. And
Yeah. I mean,
it's wild, man. It really is.
and then moving on to like you said, coronavirus, COVID-19, however you want to look at it, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's just the only other thing that you can like compare this to. I mean, obviously you see the commercials of like the influenza pandemic in 1920 that kind of shut the world down. Um, like the world doesn't see this. Like 1920, 2020. Come on now, how ironic is that? Like exactly 100 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, you can't compare anything to this. The world is literally shut down. We can't leave our homes. Like obviously now things are starting to open up, but I mean for months
Yeah.
there we were stuck. We couldn't do anything. Like the economy is obviously taking a hit. People can't work. You can't make money. Like you can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. It's just literally the world is sitting still almost.
Yeah. No,
It's just a
absolutely.
crazy thing to learn to live through and to learn about. I mean, as future generations learn about. I mean, we learned about the flu and how detrimental it was. I mean, going on in history, it's going to be crazy to learn about like what coronavirus was and what it did to the world in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting to see once it's, published and in history books. Like, it's almost going to be fun to read about, to see what
Oh,
people
for
had to
sure.
say and to see what kind of lies and how, how people have misconceived it or how history has kind of rewritten itself, in the form of a textbook or a history book. Like, obviously we experienced it,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
while I didn't have anybody, personally in my family die, I had my, my stepbrother, or my half slash stepbrother. I think when he's adopted his stepbrother. When my stepbrother got it, he was completely fine. There was over 100 cases reported at my workplace, and 3 people actually did die. So I mean, while it didn't affect me as far as my immediate family, it definitely had real world effects on my workplace, being probably surrounded to it, definitely being exposed to it, working almost side by side with a girl who had it. I mean, like, I legitimately typed on the same keyboard. I handed her paperwork, and later on that day, she found out she had coronavirus. So, while I didn't freak out and while I trusted that, my immune system as a strong 23-year-old male, that's not only, eats, I would say decently healthy. Obviously, I have the occasional McDonald's. I look at myself and I say, okay, I work out a lot. I maintain a pretty good, healthy lifestyle, and I eat well, for the most part. And I don't, I wasn't worried too much about getting it or dying from it and getting really sick. I was worried more or less about, my family members and just a plethora of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no,
So,
I 100% agree. Obviously, we talked about being wifed up earlier. Yeah, girlfriend works in a hospital. Like, I mean, she works in the hospital and she's been on COVID floors with people that have COVID, and then to come back to the apartment. I mean, after you just worked with COVID patients, I mean, obviously I'm not freaking out. I mean, 21, I'm pretty healthy. Um, I'm not freaking out too much. I feel like
yeah.
I could survive it, like you said. I mean, but still, just the threat of what could this virus actually do to me, and I mean, her being right there with it, like in the hospital as like a nurse, and it's crazy to think about. It's been exposed to so many people. I mean, it shut down the sports world. It shut down concerts. It shut down
They're still shut down.
travel.
That's
I
crazy.
mean, yeah, it's crazy how the world literally like almost went on pause.
Yeah, the world went on pause. It seems, but it's like, I don't know when they're not gonna go. When things are gonna resume. It's like, obviously, at least in my world, being my little city, my little town, I can go out to eat at places again. Obviously, there's places just like anywhere else in the world that are open and are closed, and um, some businesses say, okay, we're good to go. Some businesses, are like, nah, we're, or food places for that matter, are still closed, and they're not going to open up. But it's like, when do you draw the line? When is it ready to open back up? Because, people are getting on with their lives. I mean, I went to go get a haircut the other day. Uh, I've obviously been in and out of Walmart to get supplies that I need to get. Um, so I mean, yeah, and through a lot of this, I was considered an essential worker because I worked with food processing and getting that pushed out to places like Kroger and other sites that
Right.
take in this cold produce type of food. But yeah, man, I mean, it's, when do you draw the line? When do you say it's over? Because kind of we're in this like little we're in this little pickle, really, as
Yeah,
weird as it is to
we're
say.
almost in the middle.
Yeah.
we're kind of in a back and forth of should we or should we not, or I mean, like you said, things are opening up. You can go. I went and had a meal at Chili's the other day here in Indy. Um, I mean, you know, you're starting to be able to do things. And I'm going to kind of use this as a segue, kind of into the next topic you talked about too. You're starting to be able to do things. You're starting to be able to go out to eat. The sports world is coming back. The NBA just finalized their proposal to play in the bubble in Orlando. So they're kind of bringing that back. That starts on July 31st. Um, but coronavirus almost is ending through protesting and rioting.
Right.
As much as like it's like coronavirus is here, like protesting and rioting is like ended the coronavirus almost. Like
Right.
there's been millions of people walking together. Mask or no mask, you're still there walking together. Like that mask is not gonna prevent everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
No,
there's
yeah, totally.
thousands of people together, and I agree with the protests. I don't have a problem with it, but at the same time, it's ending another, almost ending another pandemic that's going on in the world,
Yeah.
which is almost crazy to me that the pandemic is ending, but yet a new arising issue is here.
Right.
And one's kind of ending the other, which is almost crazy to think about. But I mean, kind of use that as a segue to talk about protesting and rioting. I mean, we've seen this same issue over and over and over again for years. I mean, since almost America has started.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've seen the oppression of the black community and police brutality and the things that occur maybe not necessarily more often, but are more publicized as an issue, um, with police brutality and the police killings of black people. And I think they have every right to protest. But at the same time, I think the media, I mean, I'm a communication major, you're a communication major. We talk about this all the time. I mean, the media plays it up. Um,
Absolutely.
and we don't necessarily see all of the statistics. We don't necessarily see the full story or the full set of statistics. But I mean, I do agree that protesting, this issue and the police brutality and the killings of our black community by police, I mean, is obviously an issue. I don't think the police should be killing anyone
Yeah.
unless they're armed and dangerous and they are absolutely threatening the safety of other human beings.
Right. And
So I agree with the protests, but
yeah, and I don't think you'll find too many people that will defend the officer. And I believe, if I'm correct, the officer's
oh, for
name is
sure.
Derek Chauvin, or Derek Chauvin, however you say it. And there's obviously other police members that are on, um, on record, and their names are on file, and being associated with it. So, there's more than just one person that it took to make this happen. But with social media, with digital media, anything that is able to be recorded, streamed, and posted to the internet, you have this wonderful thing called the internet, where you're allowed to you know let the world see what's happened. And so that's just another case of how the internet is both doing a good and a bad thing.
Absolutely.
You see how internet can be used in a good way, in a good sense, to spread awareness and bring light to the situation, which allows people to see each other throughout America, both rioting and protesting, and basically trying to march for peace and understanding, and to have a change in the culture. And I understand that, like, as much as I understand that what Derek, Officer Derek Chauvin, or Chauvin, however you say it, did. I think anybody can watch that video where he leaves his knee. He takes a knee on this man's neck until he breathes his last breath. And in a lot of ways, that's excuse my French, but completely fucked up. I mean, it really is.
Oh,
It's one of the
absolutely.
most horrific things that I've watched and witnessed, and I'm somebody who has family members in the law enforcement world. Who I'm somebody who even thinks about entering into the law enforcement field, right? And so because of that, it's a scary thing and it's a scary world to be a part of, because now it's like if you become a police officer, you're almost risking your life at a greater expense now. Um,
Yeah,
it's wild, man. And I don't know if I'm kind of putting my points together or not, very well, but I'm trying to do my best to make sense out of the situation, and show how social media is a good and a bad thing. But you
absolutely.
but you have a thing of where people have sat at home for the past 3 to 4 months, and this speaks to more of the looting and the rioting versus protesting and trying to get actual change to happen within the world. Um,
Right.
you have people who sat at home for 3 and 4 months, and maybe a good majority of them didn't work. Maybe a good majority of them never work. I don't know, but either way, they've been locked up inside the house. They're ready to finally get out and do something, and so at any opportunity it is, they're most likely going to jump at it and not look back. I mean, because they haven't
Oh, for sure.
they haven't had this social intellect and this social construct, and so now now people are able to gather back in large groups, and they could always do that in the first place, right? Nobody can stop the American people, like you really can't.
I mean, yeah, right,
I
right.
mean,
Yeah.
if they all wanted, if there's a million people that wanted to march onto the White House and take it over, like absolutely they could. Like I don't, it doesn't matter how much National Guard you bring, like people are gonna walk over these people. Um,
Right.
and that's just I'm not trying to bring in other circumstances or instances. I'm just trying to say objectively, the American people, if they want to get something done, they're gonna get it done. They're gonna, you can't outnumber them basically.
Yeah, right.
So it's a wild topic to cover, and it takes hours and hours to dissect and jump into. But
Oh, yeah,
I
for
don't think
sure. I mean,
anybody can objectively watch that video of George Floyd dying and say, "Oh, he deserved that," or in any way did an officer's life feel threatened.
oh no, 100%. I mean, I don't even think he necessarily ever even resisted. Watching the videos, I don't think he ever really resisted, being cuffed or whatever. He fell down. Um, I obviously there's a part in the video that you can't really see much when it kind of looks like there's maybe a struggle in the back of the cop car or whatever before he gets pulled out the other side, and pinned down. But I mean, no one deserves to lay on their stomach with a knee on the back of their neck
Yeah.
and die. I
Uh,
mean, and it's almost ironic that it was another black man because of the issues that we have in the country. But if that was a white man as well, he still doesn't deserve that. White, black, Asian, whatever. I
right.
mean, that's not okay. Um,
Absolutely.
and I mean, like I said, we've seen this go on for so long with the shooting of unarmed black males of police officers or the killing of black males police officers, and honestly it is time for a change. And we're not going to do that without everyone. As you can see in the protest, I mean, white people with black people with Asian people with everybody together saying something, and that's the only way that we're actually going to get change. I seen the other day that all four officers have actually been charged with a crime now. Um, uh, Chauvin, or however you say his names, uh, his charges have been increased to a higher degree.
Hmm.
Um, but it doesn't stop there. Like, it doesn't stop with just this situation. I mean, it's setting a precedent for the future. And bringing in laws for the future, and that's where I think the protests are doing a great job. Now, talking about the rioting and the looting, we as the American people have built our cities. We built the cities, and to go in and tear down the city that you built or the city that you live in, the city that you call home, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. I put money into the city. I pay
Right.
taxes into the city. Those people have paid money to go into the city and to kind of almost take away from that, you're almost jeopardizing yourself because now you got to put more money back into the city. And
Right.
I understand where they're coming from and what they're doing,
And
but
it's like
I mean,
why riot and loot and burn down your own city, your own town? I mean, what tangible good can that do? I mean, like you're talking about, you live in this community, so why destroy the community you live in? Why tear down and burn and subject your businesses that keep your town running, that keep you fed, whether it's a bar and grill, whether it's a clothing store and shopping center, whatever it is. Why what kind of logical sense does it make to tear down and burn and whatever else for that community? Now I get it. If you say like, oh, how can that benefit you? If you say like, oh, well, I'm looting and rioting, and so I'm looting this place and I'm getting this flat screen TV for free, or I'm getting these new designer clothes for free, or where I can sell them. It doesn't make the excuse. The original point stands of why would you burn down? Why would you bust into and make all of these businesses suffer? Where they're gonna all have to ideally take out some kind of insurance.
oh,
Um,
for sure.
which in some way is going to screw the American taxpayer, the people who pay taxes, and
The same exact people that did it.
yeah,
They're gonna almost pay for it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
yep. And some people and some people will argue and say, well, the people that are doing it right now are the ones without jobs. And to some degree, I can maybe understand and respect that and say,
not
yeah,
all,
a
but not
good
all.
a good chunk of people that you may always classify as blacks that are thugs and they don't ever work and they do is sell drugs and do drugs, like maybe that's the case for a few percent of people. I highly doubt it's even half. Um,
Oh
rather
yeah,
rather even a
probably
quarter
not.
percent. But at the end of the
Right,
day, it's like you're gonna have to end up paying more in taxes. You're going to end up screwing your community a little bit more, and in the long run, as far as longevity goes, I think it's gonna do a lot more damage than it is for um, than it's gonna do any good. But
right.
I guess how do you put a price on the good tangible effects from this? Because it's like, well, I mean, I guess if cops stop killing blacks at a a lesser
Then it
rate.
was right.
Yeah,
Then it was right.
right. So it's kind of hard to draw that line and say what justifies it and what doesn't. Um,
Right.
but at the end of
Like
the
I said,
day,
I stand behind the reason, but I don't stand behind that method. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
I stand behind the reason and the manner in which they are doing these activities, but I don't necessarily stand behind the looting and the rioting method. Um, because there's been so many peaceful protests. I mean, I seen one city, everybody went and they knelt. They knelt on the ground. um I mean, peaceful for hours. And even cops joined them in kneeling on the ground.
Yeah.
Peaceful protest, and I think that makes so much more of a statement than burning down the city. I mean,
Right.
Martin Luther King Jr., if we want to take it all the way back to that, they'd never burned down the city. You know what I mean? He
Mm-hmm.
stood up and he gave speeches for the black community and and peacefully protested civil rights movement, and it was successful. So
Right.
you can see in the past when peaceful has been successful. Um, so I mean, it's it's really hard to go against it because of the reason, but like I said, the method, man, it's just I just don't necessarily understand why that's more beneficial. And I saw a stat actually. I don't
Doctor
remember what
Stats,
source.
is Doctor Stats coming into play?
No, but I saw a stat recently that said something like all 50 states and 18 countries have supported or done a protest for Black Lives Matter, making it the largest or like the largest civil rights movement in world history or something. So
Really?
I mean it's out there. Like I mean the protests, 18 countries. I mean
Yeah.
supporting Black Lives Matter in America, 50 states, 18 countries, the largest civil rights movement in world history. I think they're making a statement.
Mm-hmm.
Like
And when's the
and
last time
I
50
don't
all 50 states came together on something, right? Like when's the last time
right,
that happened? You
exactly.
saw it through all
Right.
50 states in America.
So I mean, I think the statement is made, and I think that the good is going to come out of this, and I think we're going to move forward as a country, as a world almost. I mean, 18 countries. I mean, you're getting a lot of support out there. I mean, I think
Yeah.
just the good out of this can end up being beneficial for our judicial system, our law system, however you want to look at it. I mean,
Right.
all kind of goes hand in hand, but I think we're going in the right direction. So
Absolutely, and I think there is good to come out of it. It's just hard to see through so much of the negative stuff, and what makes that more apparent and what makes it more blinding, by the day, is the way the media portrays it. And just like you talked about earlier, it's like, if a white man dies, at the hands of police, there's not a whole lot of people that bat the eye. Or similarly, if there is a black man that kills another, a black officer that kills another black man, is it blasted all over the media? It might be, but the greater chances are that it's not. But when it's a white Caucasian male, and even in this case, it was even another minority. It was a Chinese man or Japanese or Burmese, whatever he was. He had some weird name like Hung Tao,
yeah,
Tinao, what I mean, yeah, something like that. It was something weird. But original point being, when it's a white cop and a black individual, and the black individual dies in the hands of police, it then becomes plastered and blasted all over of social media, all over the news, and it's not until it's not taken down until people are getting, it's getting some, commotion behind it, and it's getting trending on Twitter. It's all over the news sources, and everybody's covering it. Just similarly to how the whole world was scared with coronavirus, and then all of a sudden these riots happen, and it's like, well, what about the cases in coronavirus? We're not talking about how there's 500 new cases in just Indiana alone, or there's been another, I think another 7 to 800 cases in the past 3 to 4 days, and there might be even more. I'm just, I'm stating that just from what I've read, what I've heard, it's close to 1,000 cases in the past 3 to 4 days, and we're not talking about it. Is that because the coronavirus is an afterthought, and it's really, we've started to realize how much of a not a big deal it is, or is it because the media has focused their attention and their time on something new, and so now we focus on these riots and more negative stuff that is, giving us a reason to look at life more negatively.
and that's the thing with the media; it's always progressing. The media doesn't ever really run it back. You know what I mean?
Right.
The media doesn't necessarily run it back to the coronavirus. The media is not going to run it back to the murder hornets or whatever. The media is always progressing. It needs the new story now, and if you can get it first, you win.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the crazy thing about media is that they don't necessarily care.
And it doesn't care if it's factual, if it's truth. Will it ruin
Right.
somebody's career? It doesn't matter anymore. And that's
Yeah.
similarly. And I'm not trying to segue into anything new here, but you look at the Brock Horton situation, or not Horton, Brock whatever, the guy that raped the girl behind the dumpster. In this situation, it's completely and utterly wrong, and the man
Oh, for
should be
sure.
spending the rest of his life in jail. But what I'm trying to get at, the media doesn't care about who you are. The media doesn't care how much it tarnishes your image. If you're an athlete, like a star athlete, or if you're just somebody in general who has this headline, and nobody finds out the facts of whether you this happened to you, it's not guilty, innocent to proven guilty anymore. It's literally guilty at first sight, and you got to prove your innocence. And even if you prove your innocence, a lot of times people still don't believe, like, oh, it was set up. It was set up for him
Absolutely.
to, become, innocent, or whatever. What I'm trying to get at is the media doesn't care who it ruins in its path. The media has no feelings towards you or anyone else. It will ruin your career. It will ruin your life in an instant, and not think about it twice. And it's really jacked up that it's like that, but it's the world we live in, and it's the media coverage, because they don't care about facts. They don't care about, getting the best and most authentic truth and source out there. They care about being the first one, getting the
Hmm.
clicks and the views, and sometimes I think even that added drama of ruining somebody's life or ruining somebody's career is an incentive to for them to get it out there quicker. I mean, it just it's so mind blowing.
It's almost as every news source runs as a gossip column.
Yep.
And if you get the gossip first, if you get the tea first, as you
Right. The
know,
tea.
the people like to say,
Use
everybody
the
wants to get the
mucking tea.
tea. But if you get the tea first and you spill the tea, you win. You got I mean, you got the views, you got everybody coming to your site because you got the tea, you got the first story. And as much good as the media is and as much good as the media can do, the same amount of negative that the media also produces, which is almost mind boggling.
Yeah. No.
In a
Absolutely.
sense that, like, the media is so positive with connections and the way you can connect with people and, start things on media, start movements on media. But at the same time, the media can ruin your life.
Hmm.
Like, and it's just crazy how there's almost no middle. It's either the media is positive today and negative tomorrow, or vice versa.
Hmm. I mean, like I said,
Crazy.
it has no feelings, it has no emotions, and a lot of these writers, these journalists, these people who, are behind the behind the lines or behind the scenes of what gets produced and put on television. Man, they have no regard for human life. Whether it's
Oh, for sure.
ruining someone's career, ruining someone's life, and that might be a product of cancel culture. That might be a product of just people being corrupt in the world we live in, where we want information fast, we want it now, we want to read it in the headline, and we don't want to have to, TLDR, too long didn't read that. I
Absolutely.
don't know what it's a product of, but I know for a fact that it's completely wrong, and man, it's something that we'll continue to live with, and hopefully it doesn't last too much longer. Hopefully cancel culture is out the window soon. Hopefully the
Yeah.
media is corrected. I think one of the best things that having Donald Trump in office, and I'm not trying to go off on a tangent about how great Donald Trump is, but something I think he's done great as a president is call out the media and really get people to understand and open their eyes that they're fake news. Whether it's CNN, whether it is another news source such as CNBC,
Right.
MSNBC, you know, and being a biased conservative here, Fox News, I'm sure they produce fake news just like the major sites do. But I think something that he's done great in his presidency is opening the eyes and getting people to understand that look, your news source, your major news sources produce fake news. They are corrupt. They don't care who they hurt, and they just want the news as quick as possible, and to get that tea out to people as quick as possible. So it's
Take the T.
yeah.
For sure. No, 100%. I agree. Um, man, the media. I don't. It's almost too hard to explain. Like,
Hmm.
the media is just such a diverse and complex topic with all of the different ways and things that play into the media and I mean, sources and truth versus false facts. And man, it's just so complex and it consumes our world. Like, media and technology is consuming our world, which
Yeah,
is
and
it's
in a
crazy.
lot of ways, it's I mean, it's even more of a diverse topic than a lot of the things we're covering, whether it's coronavirus and the hidden truths behind it, or the looting and the rioting, and diving into the history of blacks versus whites, diving into the history of police brutality just within the past 5 to 10 years of what we've experienced. I mean, it's a very diverse topic, and it's just something that you can't cover in 20 minutes in 5 or 10 minutes. It's something that
Never.
takes days, if not weeks, to try and break
Months.
down everything.
The breakdown, the complexity of what the media does and how media is portrayed and how media is viewed and what goes into the media. Man, it's just, you could cover it for a year. You could talk about the media for a year
Yeah.
while making media, which is the craziest thing. Like, you make media, but you're
Covering
talking about
media.
critiquing the media, which is because that's like I said, the media is consuming our world. Like, everything is media nowadays, and
Yeah.
it's unreal.
Yeah, and it's something that as we go up on this podcast and we cover other things and we talk about other things and other facets of life, it's something I think that what makes a podcast like this unique, or any podcast for that matter, is trying to uncover truth, but also trying to look at things objectively, and trying to look at things that are not so biased, trying to view from the perspective of the most far left liberal person that has this mindset and mentality of Republicans are absolute pieces of crap, and then vice versa. You have a Republican who looks at liberals and calls them snowflakes and is a very toxic masculinity human being. Like there's something where you kind of have this interesting dynamic of being unbiased and looking at things, and as we're talking about how untrustworthy the media is in the news. Something we can try to do and strive for is to be, as unbiased as possible, and try to cover topics and try to talk about and discuss topics, whether it's you and I, whether we have somebody else on this podcast, in the coming weeks, something that we can try and you know, I guess the best way I'm trying to look at it is we can try and uncover and dissect this stuff as unbiased as possible, with the mindset of a liberal, but also the mindset of a conservative, from the mindset of a Christian versus the mindset of an atheist. Having that mindset is something I think we can benefit greatly from personally.
Oh yeah, man, I'm a huge facts guy. Like I'm huge on the facts. Like
Big
I
facts guy.
always fact. I always spit the facts. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
like I'm a huge facts guy. What 4 or 5 times during this podcast right here, as we start, I've brought up statistics. Like I'm a huge guy to look at the statistics and how the facts and the statistics play out and tell the true story. Um, so I mean, yeah, I'm completely unbiased. I usually look at everything with an open mind. And I like to listen to other people's opinions. Like I'm a huge debate guy. I love to argue. I love to debate. Um, I love to talk about things that we can have different point of views on.
Yeah.
I mean, and I want to bring out the facts and the stats and the situation. And like I said, man, I'm a huge facts guy.
Yep.
So,
Big
man,
facts guy.
one thing I want to talk about is how diverse our podcast can be, man. Like not just in topics, like we both have different backgrounds, like we come from different areas, we come from different livelihoods, we come from different like styles of living. I mean, we have completely not completely different ideologies, but I mean we both have different ideas and the way we view things. I mean, we can cover all sorts of topics. I'm a huge sports guy, so
Yeah.
I mean, when we get interactions, like I'm a huge sports guy, I can sit and talk your head off about sports. So if we have people that want to talk about sports, I mean, you're pretty well into sports too. But I mean, like I said, I'm a huge sports guy. You are great with politics. You love looking at politics. I'm not a huge politics guy, so I can't really, put my foot in there. But you're huge into politics. I mean, musically, we're both pretty in depth with music, pretty cultured in music. But at the same time, we both have different views in music. So, if people listening want to hear different thoughts about music or things that are going on there, I'm pretty in depth with TV shows. I'm not a big movies guy, but people want to talk about TV shows or things. I mean, dude, we can cover everything. We're so diverse in, the topics that we, I guess, dive ourselves into outside of in the outside world. I mean, we can give our opinions on anything almost. With the two of us, we're pretty diverse and pretty cultured in a lot of different things. Like the diversity of this podcast, we can take it in almost any direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely two individuals who I'd say for the better part of the sake of this, we're just curious individuals. I mean, we're young adults, and you have people who run these podcasts, and they've been through life experiences, and while we have had our own unique life experiences, and while we've been through stuff in our life, you can't compare the stuff that we've been through to somebody like Joey Diaz, or somebody like Joe Rogan, or anybody else for that matter, right? You have two humans who are young adults, young men, right? And they come, like you said, we're coming from different areas of life. And while you're covered, in the sport of wrestling, and you're covered in the sport, world of sports and whatnot, I bring this background of also similarly being in sports, and being a wrestler, and trying to communicate the way I view the world and how I've interacted with the world, and the path that it's taken me down in my life. It's definitely something that's interesting, and for the most part is quite unique. And I think that's with anybody. Like, if anybody were to grab a mic and start to create a podcast tomorrow, it's something that even then, you have your own diverse way of looking at the world, and viewing things and viewing topics, and seeing how you relate to them and how you view them through your eyes and your lens. So,
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'm really big on in this podcast interactions. Man, people what the people, somebody listens to this and they have a question that they want us to address on a podcast, or they have a topic they want us to discuss, or they want to even come on the podcast and talk about it with us, man. Interactions I think is huge.
mm-hmm.
Um and like I said, we can cover just about anything. We're both pretty diverse and pretty cultured, and have lots of different experiences and different livelihoods, in the way that we've been brought up to this point in our life. So, I mean, man, diversity and interactions can be huge into kind of how this podcast takes a turn.
Absolutely. Um, I Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I really think that with anything, it has its own unique curvature, and a way to kind of dissect things. And so, as we go on with this, and the following days, following weeks, whatever, uh, I'm always excited, and I'm excited to see when we're able, a time when we're able to get back together, and kind of work, yeah, in person, and we're not separated by the coronavirus, and we're not separated by the internet or the web. But also, I'm excited to see who we bring on, the people that come on to this show or come on to this podcast, and what kind of values and what kind of ideologies they bring to the table. And just like us, they have their own way that they've interacted with the world, and um, experiences that they've had, good or bad with police, good or bad with anything else that we cover on this podcast in the meantime. But yeah, I mean, it's, and I feel like I'm kind of wrapping things up, and so maybe that's what we're maybe that's the gear we're heading into. But yeah, man, I'm excited. It's first inaugural podcast, and I I didn't think I'd ever be doing a podcast, right?
I mean, yeah, dude, I've been thinking about doing a podcast forever, man. Me and one of my other buddies were thinking about doing a podcast, and I mean, you're probably a great guy I could do podcasts with because you're very technologically, I mean, inclined. I mean, you got the system, you got the streaming, you got everything kind of that I don't have. I mean, I kind of bring a lot of personality and you know, a lot of different topics. Talk a lot. I mean, obviously, everybody that knows me
Right.
knows I talk a lot, and all I
Yeah,
want to do is
bro.
talk. And I bring personality. I mean, I mean, what Johnny in debate class said. What you mean? You're 95% of personality in the class. Like, I bring a lot of personality, um, and obviously, I like to talk a lot.
Yeah.
Like I said, and you kind of got the devices and the streaming and the more technology, technical, however you say it,
Technological.
whatever. Yeah,
Technological
technological
advancement.
advancements.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
but yeah, man, I'm so excited to get in person almost because I think shoot, school's coming up soon. I mean, Marion's confirmed to go back to school. We can, like I said, interactions, man. I'm so excited to like interview people or like go out and interview and then put a segment of the interview into our podcast or
Hmm.
have people come on the show in person. I mean,
Right.
man, it can go so many different directions, and I'm excited that I'm finally actually like doing it. I've been talking about it for so long, like I can finally get my voice out there and
Right.
just
Yeah.
kind
No,
of
I definitely.
segue.
I think that finally, just finally sitting down and committing to do something is productive. Obviously, as time goes on, we'll figure out how to do this better, how to make it look more professional. Obviously, being at a college dorm room, we have a little more segue and a little more leeway with how things run. Obviously, you might have somebody who's loud in the hallway, run down the hallway and being loud. But you know, something weird as you know, my water heater or whatever went off there for a little while, having to transition out of that, having to have somebody walk across the background, and it's just it seems a little unprofessional.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, it's fine, it's okay. Is it gonna make or break a podcast? Like, no, we're in the stage where we're just having fun and we're talking and we're chatting. But as things go on and as we learn a little bit more about this business, because in reality, like podcasting is a
It's
business.
business.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and so
100%.
as we go on, we'll figure out all of the secrets and tips and whatnot to do a podcast. But in the meantime, we're just out here uploading to SoundCloud and posting to YouTube, and we literally have nothing fancy, where it's just our two faces on the screen at all times, and you get to see our raw reactions, you get to see our eyeballs, and whatever happened the entire time. So it's unique and
Yeah.
it's fun, and with that,
And I will preach it. I will preach it again, man. Being authentic, man. I think being authentic and being so vulnerable to the public that watches, man, and being those kind of people that, man, I feel that guy. He's sitting in an apartment in Indianapolis. I'm sitting in an apartment wherever I'm at, man. And being authentic and being relatable. It's just,
yeah.
like I said, I will preach it and I will preach it again. I think being authentic is so, I don't even know. It's so great for the podcast and being relatable. Man, I'm not a celebrity. I'm just a kid in college out here talking about real world things just like anybody else can do and being relatable. Man, I'm not Joe Rogan who's on TV every other weekend doing UFC fights and a celebrity who has a platform. You know what I mean? I think the being authentic and being relatable is so huge. Like,
It definitely has its own
it,
marketing value
yeah,
for us right now, being
for
that
sure.
being that we're not, a personality, being that we're not a celebrity. I mean, we have market value with that, and with that being said, it helps us. I believe it can help us in the long run. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, shoot, I'm basically kind of I'm kind of fizzled out right now. I'm not fizzled out, I guess I should say. That's probably a lack of a better term. I'm cool with where we're at. We're at a good point right now for our first episode being an hour and nearing 10 minutes. An hour and 10 minutes long. I mean, shoot, you look at somebody like Joe Rogan who shoots 3 hour segments. Like, that's crazy to think about. Sitting down for another two
Oh
hours
man,
and covering. But
unreal.
also you have more people at the table. You're in person. It's easier to talk, and it's a little bit more. Maybe authentic, just because it isn't like you're in one spot and I'm in the other. We're not all in the same room, and there's not 3 or 4 people around the table. So
Yeah, man, it's
given
hard
the
to deal without interviews and stuff right now too. I
exactly,
mean, other
yeah,
people that you can bring in. I mean, 3 hours, man. We could have four different people on the show
right,
talk talk about four different topics. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean,
man,
and given the constraints, and given that our first podcast is just us two, and it might be that for the next few episodes before we finally bring somebody on. Who knows? I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying it won't. But for an hour and 10 minutes for the first little recording session, not bad. So
absolutely.
with that being said, we'll go ahead and close it, man. If you guys have anything, if you guys listened and have made it this far, we appreciate you and we thank you. Again, my name's Colton Gonzalez. You go by my internet personality as Buckeye. My boy here, AB, he'll give you his introduction, his spiel as he kinds of signs off. If you guys do have any suggestions, names, anything like that, what you think we should be called, any topics, anything at all that you want to talk about the podcast, or have us, cover in the next episodes or the following episodes, leave us a comment. Let us know. We're always going to be reading those and interested in what's going on next. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I'm Austin Bain. A lot of people call me AB where I'm from. But yeah, man, I appreciate interactions. If you're listening, you made it this far. I appreciate you. I'm trying to start something that I think is authentic. I mean, I appreciate the listens, and I mean, I'm gonna appreciate interactions and the things that you leave for us, and we'll definitely be, you know, looking at those things and trying to put those into our new podcast. Any topics that you think we should have. I mean, just drop your ideas, names for us, things that we should be called. Like you said, man, interactions. I think it's going to be huge for a podcast. And if you're listening, man, I want you here. I want you on the show. I want to hear what you got to say. Like I said, I'm just another kid out here in college, just trying to make a name for himself, man, and I want to be interacted with authentic people and hear your opinions, man. So, yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, brother, man. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and end the recording there, and we're signing off, dog.